Good morning. Welcome to your June 17th, 2026 situational briefing for information and news you can use related to disaster and emergency management across Canada. This morning, I'm going to start off just with a brief review of the jet stream. This is something we'll be watching more and more as El Nino sits in, to kind of see how the polar jet stream reacts based on the forecast, which right now it's not quite behaving the way that it's forecasted for the summer. But what we can expect is the jet stream to move north and almost kind of hold this pattern. But the left side of where the red arrows are, that's going to move sort of northeast and sort of cut down the right side of that red spot in the Northwest Territories down through Saskatchewan and then under here, which is going to keep sort of the lower pressure around Nunavut, northern Manitoba, a bit of Saskatchewan, Ontario, Quebec, while that higher pressure is going to stick around the prairies and Northwest Territories and Yukon. So we'll watch that going on through the summer just to see if that plays out like it's expected to. And we'll also be spending a little bit more time just kind of looking at this observational map. It's a little bit messy, but what I like about it is it gives us those clear high and low pressure systems, which often dictate the unstable and stable weather. So this one is prairiewx.ca. It takes a little while to load there just because of all of the layers, but you can kind of go over, and there's lots of different options. But if we kind of zoom in, you can see the weather radar pattern, the clouds, where those are going to be, the wind directions here. You get a lot of data. A lot of this is used for aviation pilots and aviation organizations, but we'll stick with that a little bit more in conjunction with our typical resources, which you can find all of these right now on our app at app.hazardscape.com under our resource library, and you can access everything that I'm about to review here, including our daily situation report. And to start off, as usual, when we're looking at things like the jet stream and starting to track that in correlation with El Nino, especially over the course of the next 16 months, because that's going to bring in intense heat. That's also going to impact a little bit or significantly the drought conditions. And I want to make sure too, these lives, as always, they are sponsored through our partnerships with All About Abatement, First Nations owned abatement company of Edmonton, Alberta. Kyle and his team, they do asbestos, lead, toxic materials, interior demolitions, hazardous material assessments. So if you're looking to work with them, they've got some case studies on their site that talk about some of the work that they've done in different communities. And you can check out our podcast. We've got a video on our YouTube channel where we walk through all of these sites, including having discussions about their technology and the things that they do. So see if I can pull that up here. My screen's just suddenly, okay, let's go in here. I don't know if it's going to let me. We'll do it this way. So what happens when you're a one-man show. So here's an excerpt of Kyle kind of walking me through what this machine does, which basically it extracts vermiculite, insulation, different materials. So you can go through and he takes us, walks us through their entire site, including this large transfer station, waste station that they have, which is incredible to watch because it is such a large area. So that's at all-about-about.ca, all about abatement, hazardous materials. They are sponsoring our lives and our Indigenous Emergency Management Coordinator Certificate Program if you're interested in that. And then we also work very closely with Premier Fire and Flood. They sponsor our lives and our training as well for Indigenous communities. We also have I'll pull that up here. We also have a video with Darcy and his team at Premier Fire and Flood, and we go through their facility and he walks us through the process of cleaning hides and pelts and things like that. So here's some of the facilities. Let's go to, oh, that's the wrong one. Let's go to the actual long version. That's just my short clip. Where are we at? It's because I didn't put 34, 5 months. There we go. So you can, this is this is some of the equipment that they have. She's demonstrating that this machine, uses like water and bubbles to clean things really gently. There's a scene where, we walk through, this is a good one too, because this is a lot of the equipment that goes into their mobile response trailer. They have a 50-foot trailer that can be pulled out to small and remote communities, and they can do high efficiency water extraction, dehumidification, things like that. So that's Premier Fire and Flood. You can head over to our YouTube channel and watch those full feature videos right now. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for supporting those organizations. Not much change over the last couple of days since we've been on this week. We've got, continued province-wide state of emergency in Manitoba. We've got Weenuk First Nation. They've declared their state of emergency for a forest fire. The minister announcement on clean drinking water. Saisi Dene First Nation, they've got their state of emergency on violence and drug addiction. Peter Ballantyne, they're under a state of local emergency for the unfortunate violence in their community as well. So not a lot of shifts in terms of new evacuations or, large issues going on in that regard. If we take a look at our special weather statement for today, there's only a little one here. It's that heat that's still pestering the Northwest Territories, the air quality for this one, and that's just due to one of the fires up there. And we'll head over to the smoke tracking system there, and you can see this is the fire event that's causing that air quality issue in the Northwest Territories along the Yukon border. So if you're in a First Nation area there, definitely start taking a look at the air quality in your community, because it is getting to, the 120 to 250 parts per million, which is, quite high in terms of micrograms of smoke particulate per cubic meter. And it is starting to, there are fires going on now in Saskatchewan and Manitoba that are starting to produce higher plumes of smoke, which was not the case just yesterday. But again, as we've got those high and low pressure systems settling in, it's driving a little bit more wind and kind of causing that. So you can see here, we'll go to the wind satellite, right? You've got a lot more air movement coming in from the north, which that low pressure system, because the jet stream is so south, it's just creating those unstable weather patterns. And that's going to drive and fan a lot of those fires, unfortunately, in terms of new starts and where things are at. So this map here is a current view of the active fires. And it's, I think it's hard to say what's going to happen when we move into the summer in terms of the jet stream and El Nino, but whether Manitoba's fire risk reduces heading into the end of June, we'll see. But definitely BC, Alberta, Yukon, Northwest Territories, their fire danger is going to be quite significant. And we're already seeing that in Northwest Territories. Like, take a look at that. It's just incredible with the amount of, ice polar melting, the warm weather that is sitting in there, the land that used to be covered by snow for longer, the dark spots are just soaking up that solar radiation, and it's just creating so much heat up in the Arctic now. It's incredible. And the Northwest Territories is, heating up faster than many other parts, mostly because they do sit closer to the west. So when the jet stream kind of comes in, they get caught on the warmer side. And when El Nino is functioning, and what we're expected to have is what is being forecasted now is a super El Nino, that warm Pacific Ocean is just getting trapped in the Northwest Territories, mixed with the ice, the ice melting, the less snow on the ground. That solar radiation is just making it so dry up there. Alberta, there were some tornado alerts yesterday, which, given the amount of moisture that's on the ground with all the rain that we've had, there's that increased risk of thunderstorms now in the summer. So of course, the more water that's on the ground or the more humidity, that humidity gets sucked up into the sky, and that's what causes those thunderstorms, which bring those tornadoes. So if you're in Alberta yesterday, definitely there was a few alerts for tornadoes, and I didn't check to see if any touched down officially or what they were rated at, more because I'm focused on the fire weather index right now and the state of El Nino. But if you take a look again here at the fire weather index, you can just see the Northwest Territories is, at the highest risk with BC. I know there was a fire in Kelowna that caused an evacuation yesterday, but because we're a bit more Indigenous focused here, I don't pick up a lot of the municipal news unless there's First Nations or Metis or Inuit that are being evacuated into those centers. But if you do want the sources to all of our briefings, you can get those on our app at app.hazardscape.com with listings of all the new fire starts within 24 hours. So this is the one here that forced an evacuation, but we've got two out of control near Merritt Kamloops and near Penticton. Within Alberta, Saskatchewan, there isn't anything too significant. We'll go over to the fire map. It's been pretty quiet in Alberta so far. Same with, I would probably say Alberta's been the quietest it's been, but that was expected. But that's going to change as that super El Nino drives in over the next 12 to 16 months. I think next year's fire season is going to be extreme. based on forecasts. So that's something we'll be watching here as we take a look at, all of the variables and components that go into predicting the wildfire season. Now, this one is an overlay of where there are some current fires with. Let's go to today. I don't know why that's set on May. Good thing I checked the dates, eh? The 17th. So this is just an overlay of the fire weather index with existing fires. And this is pretty reminiscent of where things have been. So you can see where it's really dry, high fire weather index up in the north, and there's that band that comes through Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and then central BC. That's where most of the starts have been. And that lines up with the drought mapping, that lines up with the jet stream, that lines up with the high and low pressure systems that we're getting. So I think, again, as we continue to follow the jet stream this summer and we see it move a little bit more northeast and kind of cut the country in half, the west is going to get the brunt of those very, very warm temperatures. So if you are, oh, hi, Ad Astra. Sorry, I keep missing your comments all the time, but thanks for joining on. If you're still here, thanks for your support. Always appreciate that. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know in the comments. I'll try to pay attention to them, but on my screen, they're just so tiny and I don't get a notification when I'm looking over at the data sets here. But if you are interested, again, in accessing this data, if you're just joining us, you can head over to our app at app.hazardscape.com and get the full library of all of the maps and data points that we use for our situational briefing. And that includes accessing our learning articles, which we continue to expand. If you are looking to get into emergency management and want to understand some of the on-reserve, off-reserve roles, in community roles, you can head over there and take a look through our articles on the various types of roles within different communities. And you can also head over and check out now the restoration readiness assessment that we have on our app for on-reserve and off-reserve. This applies to Metis and Inuit as well. It basically just walks leadership and emergency management coordinators through the process of developing a memorandum of understanding with disaster response restoration companies like Premier Fire and Flood or All About Abatement. And that's really important because we really tend to focus on wildfire response, flood response resources, emergency services. We do not focus enough on planning for disaster restoration response. And that I'm a big proponent of helping Indigenous communities plan a lot more for that, the cleanup, the hazardous materials abatement, safe re-entry, funding and records readiness, housing and utilities continuity, resilient rebuilding, and making sure leadership has that review. Because within our planning hub, if you go into the operations section and you go into the functional analysis, there is a hazardous materials response annex. You can create plans for all of these. If you've got hazardous materials releases, asbestos, mold, lead, even vermiculite in your on-reserve or off-reserve homes, your community homes, that needs to be abated. And that is often forgotten about or left out in the planning stages because there's so much focus on response, the emergency services piece. So just something that we're highly focused on as we're educating Indigenous communities on the emergency management frameworks, the cycles, things like that. You can get all of that information on our app as usual. And if you are just joining us, if you have any questions or want to better understand what these briefings are, please let me know. This is a map of Canada's Indigenous lands. with a special weather warning layer, which I missed this one here. This is a rainfall warning down in just northeast of Montreal near Trois-Rivières. So if you're there, watch out for that rain. And then we've got an air quality warning up in the north due to the fire smoke there. And then all the colored lands you see there, Sato, Dene, Clicquot, we've got Inuit lands, and then all of the treaty reserves down here mapped out. So if you are looking to access this and kind of overlay it with your data, that is available. You can head over to our app and get the links for all of this right now. But if you are even if you're not in emergency management formally, if you're a volunteer in your community for evacuation, if you are in HR, child and family services, education, health, whatever the case is, you have a role in your community's emergency management program. So I encourage you to, while it's no cost, while there is no cost for it, I encourage as many people as possible to get over to our learning library and take the online portion of our Keeping Our People Safe, Helping Our People Recover program. You will get a certificate for that with an online digital badge, so you can show your employer that you've completed our training for Indigenous Emergency Management Coordination. And again, that's going to be no cost to Indigenous peoples through to the end of August 2026, thanks to sponsorship from First Nations owned All About Abatement. They do hazardous materials assessments and removal, and Premier Fire and Flood Restoration that do the cleanup and the restoration of buildings following floods, wildfires, smoke events, things like that. So head over and check it out. And you can also keep up to date on our travels through our mesh network this summer, where we're going to be reporting the air quality through an air particulate sensor that we've developed on our mesh network. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can watch our TikTok or our YouTube channel. And I've got information on how we're setting up this off-grid communications network, no internet, no cell service provider required, not even power. How we're setting up this small remote, well, I'm calling it a mesh network. It is a mesh network, but it's also going to report environmental data, temperature, humidity, with air particulate. And I think that's going to be kind of an important thing as we head into, looking at data sovereignty for First Nations. Data sovereignty is not just about the software and where the data is processed and stored. It's also about the data collection. And if First Nations, especially with their sacred sites, can set up more localized, decentralized private networks, then they can map medicines, they can map burial grounds and cemeteries, they can map traditional grounds that they don't want publicly available on a government service or a contractor's cloud service. Data sovereignty also includes the hardware and the sensors and the stories. So for communities that want to set up that private, secure system, it's really not hard anymore, and it's not expensive at all. I'm talking, if a community wanted to invest under $5,000, they could have a very large mesh network. They could probably get that to about 3 to 4 square kilometers, and they would have their own Wi-Fi. They would have their own communications network. No need for cell service, no need for an internet service provider. It would get them off reliance on those systems. Those systems would actually become the backup. So yeah, very, very interesting times in terms of that. So if you head over to our YouTube channel, you can see I did a range test with the system we have set up. And it's kind of just in, like you're seeing on our map here, it's in this area here. So, you know, I was able to move across this park and down this street and send a signal kind of in this L shape, which cut out having to send the signal through this neighborhood in this forested area. And those text messages went through, you know, within about 4 or 5 seconds of sending them as they went through the network. And again, we were able to cut the corner and reduce the signal noise through those that large tree stand area and neighborhood. So yeah, you can head over to our YouTube channel and check that out. Let's look at temperatures. I didn't go through the temperatures forecast for the week, but I think we're gonna, as long as those high and low pressure systems stick where they are, let's look at Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, we're probably, yeah, we're still forecasted for 16 in the prairies. Still going to be quite warm up in the mid-20s in Fort Simpson, Northwest Territories. Little chunk over here of Quebec that's quite warm. And again, that's probably due to the jet stream pushing that warm air up north. So this is Thursday afternoon as we move into the weekend. Friday afternoon, we start to see temperatures warming up back again across the prairies, down through southern Manitoba into Ontario, northern Quebec. Forecast for the weekend, probably going to get quite a bit of rain in this area here. That's what's forecasted, but still persisting to be hot up in the north. So that's a bit of the view for the week, but of course we'll be back here live tomorrow to look at a day by day. And if you didn't catch the full live of this, you can go to our YouTube channel. I record these live streams, and you can catch the recording of all of our live streams discussing the fire weather index, flood hazards, other types of hazards for First Nations, Metis and Inuit communities, and get a recap of the situation for the day as we follow the Super El Nino and, you know, other weather patterns that are going to bring heat and you know, changes to our climate. So thank you all for listening. Thank you once again to All About Abatement for their sponsorship, First Nations owned. They do hazardous materials assessment on and off reserve, and thanks to Premier Fire and Flood for their sponsorship. Again, they make all of this possible with our certificate program for Indigenous Emergency Management Coordinators. You can get that right now at our app.hazardscape.com. It's free till the end of August. So if you are Indigenous and you do want to grab your Emergency Management Essentials certificate, you can go over to our learning library and take that online course right now at no cost till the end of August. So thank you to All About Abatement and Premier for that. All right, everyone, I'll see you tomorrow morning. And as always, know your hazardscape and stay prepared.